Hey everybody, we are live. Hey, happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Got a weird warning here telling me to set my frame rate to 30. Going on with my network here. Something weird's happening. Get rid of that. For some reason. Yeah, I thought there was a big problem with people uploading and going live on YouTube right now. Oh, is there? What's going on with it? I have not seen it, but I'm here for now. Until things stop working. I don't know why. You're going to start seeing me going lower and lower as the show goes on. Hey, from Scotland. I see you. Okay. All right, where's Paul? Link. I give him the link every week. Copy link. I can't upload him. Any others are reporting. Lucky you got on, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. One, two, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, that's gating. Okay. Got that. I don't know why. I got dumped out of Twitter. Let's see what's going on with YouTube. Hello, Paul. How are you?
Pretty good.
Hi.
Sorry.
No problem.
Subtly revealed something.
A subtle reveal.
Yeah. Let me go close my doors. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. I have something here. Anybody want to guess what kind of trip this is? Play that game today. We'll play a game.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. What are we doing today? I wrote notes and I did not send notes.
Sorry.
So we will and then my microphone broke, my cable broke on my mic. So now I'm like limited as to what I could do with this thing. I could only move it back and forth. So I guess you're here in October.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday too.
It is. No, it's a Tuesday. 2nd?
October 2nd?
September 2nd. Yeah. Yeah, October 2nd. Oh, it is a Wednesday. Shit. I hate those Wednesday events. So what are you going to do? How are you going to do Windows Weekly?
I don't know.
If you need a space, I have one.
I'd rather do it a different day, but I don't know what the schedule is yet.
Let me know. I have a studio you could use. It's soundproofed and everything.
Thank you.
All right. Let me just open up the chat and I can hang out with everybody. Let me tweet out that we're live. Oh, my HP update. Thank you, HP. My daughter hates the MacBook. She can't comprehend it not being touchscreen.
Yeah.
Like it baffles her that it's not. She automatically goes to touch. She's like, this isn't working. It's not working. This up. There's something weird going on with this gate. 111. Let me. Oh, there we go. Better. All right. Hi, Andrew. Just checking if you canceled the Verizon cable TV service. Do you just have Verizon Fios for internet, and what does it cost? Yeah, so I canceled the TV a long time ago. I've had Fios where I have gigabit, and it's like $89 a month. I just canceled my second Fios line. And then, Paul, I have something here. Do you want to play Guess What This Is? What chip is this? Anybody could tell?
Looks like a Pentium.
It looks like a Pentium.
Or a 486.
You're far off. You're off by a decade.
Yeah.
Probably more than a decade. You're off by 2 decades.
It must be an AMD chip then.
Yes, it is. It is an AMD chip. All right. Are you ready?
Yep. Sorry.
Okay. Let's do this.
Distracted here.
I like Paul's longer hair.
What?
I like your longer hair.
Yeah, I gotta get a haircut.
Don't cut it. Just let it grow.
Overdue.
Be like LBJ after he retired and he grew out his hair and do the whole thing. Live on a farm. Sympathize with the hippies. All right.
She tried. We tried.
All right, guys, we are ready. Let me just retweet that we're live. Did I tweet that we're live? Yeah, I think I did. We are live. We are live. Retweeting this.
Yeah.
All right, I spammed all my accounts. All right. Sorry, guys. And we will begin in 3, 2, and 1. Oh, sorry about that. Let's try that one more time. We'll begin in 3, 2, and 1. What the Tech is brought to you by Wink, the world's only personalized wine club. Right now, Wink is offering listeners $22 off your first order when you go to trywink.com/WTT. That's trywink.com/WTT. Everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by Mr. Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I'm very stressed. I'm leaving for Vegas in less than a day, and then I'm going to LA for a couple days, and then I'm coming back next week, and I go headfirst into insanity as soon as I get back. But that's gonna, I feel like you doing these crazy trips.
Yeah.
You go back and forth. But I mean, didn't you do San Francisco? You went to San Francisco, you came to New York, and then you went to Miami. Is that true? It was something crazy like that.
I'd have to look at my calendar. I mean, I had so much stuff back to back. I don't remember. Miami, Seattle, Vancouver, New York a couple times. I went to Pittsburgh for, a school thing. We had to drive up to New York. Like, we just had all this stuff. It was Amsterdam.
Yeah.
In June. I'm missing stuff. I don't remember everything. I don't know. It was a lot of stuff.
Something in the studio just made a very strange noise, and it came from an electronic device, and I'm a little concerned now. No idea what it is, but it's okay. Maybe something's happening here. Guys, we do have a lot to talk about. I did have notes, and right before we went live on therot.com, Brad posted that the invites went out for the Microsoft Surface October event. And
just a save the date email.
Save the date. Yeah, it's going to be October 2nd in New York City. So Paul will be here for this. It's a Wednesday. So you have to get your life in order on that day, Paul.
I know.
It's a very busy day. Wednesdays are not necessarily the best day for
Wednesday
you
is the
to.
worst possible day for this to happen. So
Yeah.
obviously it's going to happen on a Wednesday.
So I kind of want to touch on this a little bit. We kind of brushed upon some of the Surface news, possibly for new devices and updates and stuff like that last week. But this is a Surface hardware event more than
Well,
anything else.
I wouldn't call it that.
Ah, what would
It's
you
a
call it?
Microsoft hardware event.
A Microsoft
Yeah.
hardware event. So other than Surface devices, what other hardware would they potentially?
HoloLens 2,
Okay.
Surface Hub 2X. Those are the
So
two big ones.
two big ones. Um, it- with the Surface devices, we touched on this, and I got a couple emails about it, and I wanted to bring this up to you. I got a lot of feedback over the aesthetics of the Surface devices, right? That they're
Okay.
very unique. A Surface device looks like a Surface device, whether it's the Surface laptop or the Surface Pro or things like that. But
Yeah.
do you feel that they need to kind of change the design at all? I mean, it's primarily been the same design for many years at this point.
Not really, honestly. I mean, I think the trick with one exception, I think the trick for Microsoft is that if I understand the Surface business at all, I think what they pride themselves most for is jumpstarting new market verticals or whatever, new types of form factors or whatever. And obviously, Surface Pro has kind of come has formalized that form factor, right? You see lots of copies of it. It's is iconic in some ways as like the MacBook Air form factor, and they just haven't had that success with anything else, And so I think they would like to keep trying. But when I look at most of their major product lines, I don't see the need for any kind of radical change. The one exception being the Surface Book, right, which still has that ridiculous giant hole when it's closed. Um, I know because they told me. They never wanted that hole there. It was just a function of the type of hinge that they created, which they fell in love with, and that their intention over time has always been to eliminate that hole. And so it wouldn't surprise me to see a Surface Book 3 that closed flat like a laptop. But we'll see. I mean, and of course, a lot of the speculation has to be around whether Microsoft will discuss or introduce a dual screen folding screen something. I think the chances of that are slim, but it's possible.
It's slim for a number of reasons. Number one, who are you? I think the concept is always cool. Whenever we see new innovation, we're always blown away by it. I mean, the foldable Huawei devices and the Samsung device. But
Yeah.
when you talk about who's the market for this device, a dual screen foldable Surface, I guess, tablet, who would need that in the day and age that we have? We have 10,000 different devices that kind of meet all our needs.
Yeah, I mean, you're you're talking to someone
you,
who has
yeah.
never understood the point of this device other than uh, making new devices, right? I mean, I just don't. I've never quite understood the point of it. So it's cool. It's interesting, of course. The Microsoft problem has always been the app ecosystem. So what's the market for this device? I mean, people will tell you that students will be one of the markets, reporters, any productivity workers. All it really is a formalization of something that some people already do, where you've got like an app over here and an app over here, and they're tiled, and now they'll be separate on different screens.
Yeah.
So conceptually, there's nothing different about this when compared to like a dual screen setup at home or at work you might have, but other than the fact that, of course, it's portable, right? And so depending on how the thing is designed, you could you might be able to use one side of it as a glass keyboard, I guess, which has been shown to be pretty terrible, but you could do that if you wanted to. I don't, I don't personally see the need for this. And I really think that for like what I'll call tweener devices, these things that sit between other things, the goal always has to be to eliminate something.
Yeah.
It was an argument that Apple did not do a good job of when they announced the original iPad back in 2010. We asked ourselves, is there room in the market for a third device? And like, well, yeah, there's room for it, but what's the point of it, really? I mean, it's for Apple, it was to sell another device, right? Because that's how they make their money. They sell hardware. at the time. I mean, they're switching that now, but um, I think of the things that I carry and the things that most people might carry who are productivity workers or whatever, and everyone has a phone, and most of those people have a laptop. And so, does this eliminate something? Not really. And I personally also carry a small tablet if I'm traveling, for just for media consumption purposes, for reading primarily. I just prefer the bigger screen. It's a well, actually, right now I use a full size iPad. I prefer an iPad Mini, but whatever it is, that screen is bigger than a phone screen and smaller than a laptop screen, and it's more portable than a laptop, and blah blah blah, whatever. But that's my personal preference. And when I think about a device like this, like, could it eliminate something? Could it? I don't, not really, especially not if it runs Windows, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Windows is great for productivity. It's not so great for entertainment and certainly not for reading.
Yeah, it's an interesting it's an interesting discussion to have because, like, I give an example, the Surface Go, right? I saw a thread about it that I was tagged in on Twitter,
Hmm.
and the concept, conceptually, I thought it was a great idea, but execution-wise, it just very low
Yeah.
powered,
Yep.
just didn't have enough beef,
Yeah.
kind of fell
I
flat.
always hear from apologists of this system, the people who do like it, and there's nothing wrong with liking it, but most people are not particularly honest about it. One guy was saying to me recently, he's like, "You don't get it. This thing's a great tablet. It's not supposed to be a full size PC." And it's like, well, actually, it's not a good tablet because good tablets have apps, and it's just the problem with the Surface Go. Well, the problems are many, really, but I mean, the problem is it's not great at anything, and I just don't. I'm sorry. Like, I know that's a little too candid for some people, especially the people who bought it and like it, and I get it, but you need
It's a
to. I'm just thinking of the
$400
broader world here.
it's $400, right? Without
400
the key.
bucks. It's more like 700 bucks.
Is it?
I
No,
mean,
starting is like 400 now.
yeah, starting. But
Starting.
I mean, if you want to get one that has even remotely acceptable performance, which is frankly impossible, you need to get the type cover. God help you if you want the pen. The
Aren't you
real
better off
world
getting
cost of one of these things
isn't it
is
better off if
pretty
you just get
expensive.
a used Surface, a Surface 3?
Yeah. Well,
You
not a
know,
Surface 3, a Surface Pro for sure.
Surface Pro, yeah.
But if you want a tablet, if that's what you're really explaining to me, then you need an iPad. And there really is nothing, even nothing else, even a really good Android tablet doesn't match up to an iPad.
Yeah, let me look at this. Surface Pro 3, $400 on Amazon. Other
Surface Pro
sites,
3, yeah.
yeah. But you could get it for like as low as like $180, depending on where you're
Yeah,
looking.
that's a much better device.
Yeah. And it's, 5 years old. It's a 5-year-old
Sure.
device. I'm gonna tell you something. I have like 4 of these that I've inherited. I got it like off a
Surface
liquidation.
Pros?
Yeah, Surface Pro
Yeah.
3s. That I it was like a liquidation
Mhm.
of like a company that I knew, and I knew the guy, and he pretty much told me, "Give me like $200 and I'll give you all of them." So he
Wow.
handed me 5 of these, and I cannot tell you, they are phenomenal for exactly what you need them to do. And you're not really doing any video editing on this thing, but as far as an everyday machine, I'm so impressed by a 5-year-old computer.
Yeah. It's hard, the problem for the Surface Pro even is because people are gonna use it as a tablet, you have limitations on how big the screen can be. The problem with using it as a tablet is you have a very big limitation on what you can do with it because it's Windows. And so even that becomes kind of a tweener device. But, like, comparing it to Surface Go is no comparison. I mean, of course, it's a much better device all around than Surface Go. I had hoped, Surface Pro, or Surface Go, I should say, I didn't think it would be that crappy. I'm surprised by how terrible it is. It's fine to look at. I mean, the build quality is good. Of course, it's just a miniature replica of the Surface Pro. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's just, but it's just too small. And then, if you buy, an iPad Pro of any size and get the keyboard, whatever you think of the keyboard, it's still a full size keyboard. You don't even get that on a Surface Go.
Yeah.
It's just the whole experience is terrible. The battery life is terrible. Performance is terrible. The smallness of the keyboard, which is less than I don't know. We need a term for this. It's not full sized.
The keyboard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a problem.
I
These are all
find it
problems.
very interesting. Just the most fascinating part of technology to me now, because we're out of the megahertz and the gigahertz races and the discussion for all that.
Well,
You
until
know,
we talk about this stuff,
until we
until you
yeah.
introduce a Pentium processor into the conversation,
Yeah, until
you
we
know,
introduced that, and then we kind of realized that the necessity.
four
But
gigabytes of RAM.
overall, the discussion around technology is no longer, the speed wars of the 90s and
Yeah,
2000s. It's now become how you use technology. And our show has kind of shifted in terms of,
yeah.
what are you using for what now? And
Well,
it's
actually,
amazing to me how it's shifted to becoming more personalized rather than this is a general great device.
yeah, it's funny. I never thought of it that way, but what you just said is interesting because the way the world has evolved, and this is just like a general fact. I mean, I don't mean this is true of every single human being, but most people, many people, have a phone, and that's their primary personal computing device, whether they think of it that way or not. It's the thing they're on most of the time. A great number of people, some huge percentage, whatever it is, will need a laptop or something like a laptop occasionally. And the reason there is you get a keyboard, a hardwood keyboard, you get a bigger screen, and sometimes you just need to type a report or work on a big spreadsheet or whatever it might be. And that kind of explains the problem with the Surface Go. It's not good at that.
Yeah.
That's that's what it's not good at. It's not a good tablet because there's no ecosystem there. And everyone has different needs, I guess. If all you want to do is watch movies occasionally, Surface Go is okay, unless you care about the battery life, you know. But if you need to get work done, if you need to do like typical tablet stuff, or if you need to do typical laptop stuff, it's not a good solution. And that's the problem. That's one of the reasons why Chromebook is such a threat to Windows, is because they can be full sized devices. They often are.
Yeah.
They're getting better. I don't know if you've been paying attention. There's more announcements coming soon, by the way. New Chromebooks, they're higher quality. They're moving up the price scale as well. Um, and this conversation, it's a lot like the conversation around streaming services versus like cable TV. You hear this complaint all the time from people who say, "Well, yeah, but now all these streaming services, they cost just as much as cable. We might as well keep cable." It's like, no, you don't understand. That's not the point. If you can save money with those services, that's wonderful. But what it's really about is the choice. It's the ability to move around. When people talk about Chromebooks and they say, "Well, look, they cost just as much as a decent Windows laptop now. Now there's no reason for these things to exist." You're missing the point. For a lot of people, not for everybody. A lot of us are old school. We grew up on PCs. We're used to them. But you got to remember, these things are complex. They're insecure. They fall apart. And I mean this like reliability ways, not physically. Um, and Chromebooks are simple. They're simple to manage. They're simple to use. They're simple to update. And like I said, most people they're not sitting there on the computer all day long. They just need it occasionally to bring up something and work on it with a full size keyboard and screen. The Chromebook does that.
It does it.
The
Yeah, and it
Chromebook
does it
makes
very
more
well.
sense than Surface Go. It fills that niche. If you're talking about the tablet niche, then the iPad is honestly the only viable solution right now for most people. It just is. I don't like it. I'm not pushing my little agenda. I mean, but that's the reality of it, that Samsung just announced yet another iPad Pro style tablet thing that no one's going to buy. It doesn't matter how nice it is. I'm sure it's fine.
So here's a question
It's
for
not.
you. Why I mean, I have my ideas as to why it didn't pick up, but Android, with all of Samsung's resources and Google working on, the Nexus devices and all
Yeah.
this stuff, why was Android why did they fail as far as gaining, market share with one device? Samsung's market
Yeah.
share on their tablet line or tab line or whatever, or Google with the Nexus. Why
Mhm.
why did that not become a successful entry for them?
I don't know. I have some ideas, right? So I just have theories. These are not facts. I mean, but looking at the market, looking at how it evolved, looking at what happened, I think a lot of people will remember one of the few truly great Android tablets was the Nexus 7. There were two versions of it, and both of them were great, for the day. Um, at that time, it seemed like mini tablets were going to be a big deal. Apple jumped in there with the iPad Mini at the time. Microsoft got on board. This was Windows 8 timeframe. Mini tablets running Windows 8.1 were going to be like this, little or big sub market, for Windows, whatever. Um, my primary theory about why that success never continued for either of those platforms has to do with Apple and a topic I kind of raise a lot, which is engagement. And I feel like on the Apple side, you've got an engaged, affluent community that is looking at buying as much as they can of this stuff. And there was such a market for iPad out of the gate that their developers saw the opportunity for tailoring their apps to the iPad in ways that on Android, it just never made sense and no one ever bothered. Not no one, I mean, but not as many.
Yeah.
And it is a fact that there are far more high quality and iOS apps. We'll call them, let's call them iOS apps that run on a big screen, meaning an iPad, than there are big screen, high quality Android apps. Doesn't mean there aren't any, but I mean, if you've heard, like, for example, one thing I did recently was if you use Microsoft Word or any of the mobile apps from Office on iOS versus Android, they're actually functionally very similar on both platforms. They look very similar. They have the same basic toolbars, ribbons, whatever. The iPad versions are better. And what does that mean? It means they feel and look more natural. They respond better. They're just better. And that's very consistent, in the apps I've looked at. So I mean, there must be more to it. Certainly, hardware makers have done a decent job of creating Android tablets, and then eventually Chromebook tablets and Chromebook 2-in-1s that run all these things, run Android apps. And if you think about it, a Chromebook that can run Android apps solves a problem for Android because those things do have these full screen apps that are web apps, and in many cases they look great and they work fine. And maybe some combination of Android apps and Chrome OS apps could help Google and its partners defeat iPad. But has this ever materialized in any meaningful way?
No, and
I
it's
don't think so.
no, and still,
If anything, it's another complexity. And that's what
yeah,
was, if we're going to get rid of Windows, like if the goal is to remove complexity from our lives, right? Windows is an obvious target because as powerful as it is, most people don't need most of that power and they certainly don't want that complexity. But when you introduce, Android apps on Chrome, obviously there's a huge benefit there to just the app market that you get instant access to. The problem is a lot of those apps don't run well full screen or don't look good or don't work right when used full screen, full screen or a big window on a Chrome OS device, a Chromebook. Um, and in many cases, you've got two versions of the same apps. If you go you could search for Microsoft Word and you could come up with the version that's for Chrome OS. It's a web app that doesn't work offline, but is more functional in some ways than the mobile app otherwise. Or you could get the mobile app, which is an Android app, which has been tailored to work on a tablet. It's also been tailored to work on Samsung DeX. So the idea is that, again, same thing, full screen. Um, but you still have two of them, and that's just one example. How do you know which one to use? How do you know which one the icon represents? The icons are
yeah.
slightly different. Like this is it's like, it's nice that it exists. We cannot deny the benefit of it, but we also can't deny the complexity of it to a normal human being. How would my wife or my mother or my father, I don't mean to single out women, I mean just normal people, human beings, just normal, non-technical people. How would they handle this complexity? Poorly, probably.
Very,
It's
very.
frustrating.
Listen,
Well, there's a reason people choose iPads.
one of my friends just got a Chromebook. They were looking for something a little inexpensive. They
Yeah,
end up spending like $500 on it, but they got a Chromebook and they're using it
sure.
for work stuff. And
Mhm.
their entire work ecosystem is based around Google Docs.
Yeah.
So for her, absolutely perfect. It does everything it needs
So
it to do, and she doesn't have to worry about anything else. It just that's all she's doing is Excel
so
and
this is
Google.
a workflow issue, right? And so I think one of the problems, it's something I think about all the time, and I'm probably gonna write something about this soon, but I have a certain way of doing things. I'm a writer, and so I need a big screen. I need a real keyboard. You could make the argument that I could use a Mac or a Chromebook or whatever. It would be fine. I just putting words on a screen, basically. But I do things in a certain way. I don't have to use Microsoft Word, but I do use Microsoft OneDrive to store all my stuff. And what you just described, your friend here, who, it's all Google Docs, meaning it's all Google Drive, meaning it's all Google ecosystem. Like that's a switch I'd have to make. So if I was going to use a Chromebook, I mean, yeah, I could use the web version or the mobile version of Microsoft Word. But what I found, because we just talked about it, I've been playing with it, is you kind of have to contort yourself a little bit because I get file system integration on Windows with OneDrive. It's very seamless. I can drag and drop between my desktop and OneDrive, and I can archive things. It's very easy. I should say it's very familiar, and that's what makes it easy to me. And so one of the hurdles when you go to a different system is, well, what do I have to change? And is the cost of that change, the effort, is it worth it? If I were to go to a Mac, obviously I'd pay a lot more for the hardware. I could still get file system integration with OneDrive, which is a huge benefit to me personally. And I would still be able to use the Microsoft Office applications, which is fine. They're fine. But Chromebook, you get into these two levels of like workflow change. So you get all that stuff is now not available. You can get kind of access to OneDrive through the file system, but it's not persistent, and you don't have sync, and there's no files on demand or anything like that. The Microsoft Office apps are only available on the web or mobile, I guess. So they're kind of inferior. I'd be better off going with the Google stuff, right? But then I have to change. But then what about the other stuff I do? I use Photoshop Elements to manipulate graphics. I use it every single day. Or even something simple like Microsoft Paint, which is built into Windows. When I go to the Mac, not having something like Paint on the Mac, not having something like Paint on Chrome OS is a problem for me because it's a familiar tool. It's something I use for very specific purposes. It does certain things very well, very quick. It's efficient for me because I use it, not because it's necessarily easy to use, whatever. These are barriers, and so if I think this is part of the problem people have with Chromebook, at least on my site, the people who are Windows guys, it's when you run into too many of these roadblocks, you just kind of give up. And I think people look at it and they say, it's not the same. It's not going to work. It doesn't work. It doesn't mean it doesn't work for other people, though.
Hey, so to kind of move on to this, I wanted to get your opinion of this. And there's a couple topics here. Well, first of all, you're back to the Nook.
Yeah.
I saw that and I literally yelled no out loud. Like Michael Scott in The Office. I went, God, no. My wife looked at me like I'm nuts, and I did not even attempt to explain.
Tobied you.
You Tobied me. Why you went to the Nook, because I know that you had a ton of problems with that HP all-in-one. You wrote about it on Thurrott.com actually, and
I love that computer. I wish it worked. I did everything I could. I even thought there might be a physical connection problem because the display, you can actually open up the box and lift the display off, and I guess they have a stand you can put it in. I've never been able to find it, but then you can just use it like a monitor. And I always thought, like, when this computer dies, I'm going to use this screen like that because I love this screen. And I thought maybe the cable inside was grounding on something, because clearly it's something to do with the display. There's something with sleep problems and bringing the display back up. The machine's on, like it's on, but the display wouldn't come on in the morning. It's just months and months of frustration. So, if I limit myself to what's available in my home, because I don't want to spend money necessarily, although I guess you could make the argument, like, this is my career, maybe I should have something that just works.
Yeah, Paul. Maybe.
I know. I do have a lot of computers, I guess. So some of the things I could do, and by the way, I could still do. A lot of people have asked me, why don't you just use a laptop? You have 30 of them or whatever. I mean, like, just pick the one you like the most and use it. And the problem with that for me goes back to that. Well, a couple of things. The big screen, big keyboard thing that I was talking about. Laptops have, straight keyboards like this. I use an ergonomic keyboard.
So you brought that up to me a while ago on the fact that you need a big screen in front of you because you have so many things open. And I always felt that I'm I'm able to manage everything on a 15-inch display. Since
Yeah.
diving into this, doing more consulting stuff, and I need a display. I need a large display in front of me.
Well,
It's
yeah, even
impossible to do everything.
the display I'm temporarily using right now is a 23 or 24-inch HP business class display. It's probably several years old now. It has really thick. It's funny. The bezels are like an inch thick. It's fun. It looks really old fashioned sitting in front of it
Hmm.
because the bezels are so big. But honestly, the display quality is pretty fantastic. I especially like there's something about the quality of the text. It's got a nice, I don't know, it just looks good to me. But it's only 1080p, and that's part of the problem. So, I mean, honestly, at this resolution and this size, you kind of want to run the browser full screen, but that makes it difficult to do a lot of the draggy droppy stuff that I do, which is just part of my daily workflow. And it's one of the same frustrations I have when I work on a laptop, no matter how big the screen is. You know, I spend stupid amounts of time positioning windows so I have a little sliver of space on the side where I can drag stuff to and whatever. But it's just it's a little frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as the computer itself, yeah. So I guess I could use a laptop. One of the reasons I don't use a laptop is I would have to use it with an external screen. And one of the things I just hate about Windows, I've always hated it. I go back again and again and again. I just hate it. Is the interaction between an external display and the internal display in
I
the
know.
laptop. And when you want undock and dock,
It screws up. Yeah.
application windows resize and move around, and they're never quite right. And it's like you'll have a window that's like it's like it looks like it's full screen, but it's not actually maximized. It's just has resized just to the dimensions of the screen, so it's a little bit off. Um, I can't I can't. That makes me insane. Just maybe it's an OCD thing. I just hate it. There's no reason like there's no data on this computer or on any computer I've ever used that's only on that computer. That's important. Everything is synced to OneDrive, like I said. So moving from PC to PC is a fairly seamless process. It's just, it has to work. So as far as like desktop computers go, honestly, I don't have very many of them. I have the NUC, which I've been using here. You can't see this, but I mean, off to this side, I've been using it over here actually with this display,
Yeah.
which has been great for that. So for the book, 1080p is where I want the screenshots. It's perfect for the book. Um, and then I had I had an HP gaming PC, and I actually thought, because one of the things I'm going to get into more this year is PC based gaming, that this would be a great choice. And I figured when I'm finally done with this all in one, maybe I'll move to this gaming PC. Um, but then my son came home for this summer, and you may remember, I don't know if it was 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago. I guess it was 2 years, whatever it was, 3 years ago. My son and I built a gaming PC for him,
Yes.
and it was this gigantic
Is that the
cube
one that I
thing.
helped with? That I helped
Yeah,
with, and
yeah,
then it
probably.
was,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
screwed you on the video card. I told you to
I
buy
don't
something
remember.
you shouldn't have.
Oh, no, no, no. That was the sorry, that was the HP tower that
That-
we used in the for the podcast before, down in the cellar, and when we had the Al-Qaeda basement in the other house. Um, so anyway, but he was home for the summer, and he, of course, he lugs this gigantic computer back, and he's upstairs in the back of the house in this room no one ever uses, his bedroom, but he never really lived there. And this summer was weird because he's been off to college for 3 years. Like, he hasn't lived with us in 3 years, so he was actually home all summer. It was actually kind of unusual. And but he's back there. You can hear the thing. It's like really loud. He's deaf. It doesn't matter that much to
yeah.
him. But
To
when you go
everybody else.
upstairs, yeah, for me it was terrible. But I'm really sensitive to sound. But go upstairs, and it's like 20 degrees warmer upstairs. So I go back to the room, and I'm like, what's going on? Why is it so hot up here? And he's cranking the AC. My wife's freezing her ass off in her office, and he's in there, and it's like 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
because of this computer.
Yeah.
And
Welcome
what
to
he
my
wants to
world.
do,
Welcome to my world, Paul. This
yeah.
is what
Oh,
I.
by
This
the
is what
way,
I. This is.
yeah. So
Where
this
is it?
room that
Let
I'm
me
in
find
right
it.
now is maybe 10 by 10, right? It's it used to be a dining room. It's a small room. The doors are closed, and just from this NUC, this room is heating up right now. So
Okay.
my wife poked her head in earlier because I had it closed from earlier for whatever reason, and she said, "Geez, it's really hot in here." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is." I showed her. I'm like, "This is the little hockey puck thing. Is the computer? This is the only thing running in here right now, and it will still be 10 degrees or more warmer than the rest of the house."
I'll show you this.
So
I play this game all the time, and I know sometimes people get annoyed by it, but look at this room was 71 degrees when I turned the air conditioner off. I had the door
Yeah.
open and the AC was pumping, and it was fine. We've been doing a show for 36 minutes. Right? Let's see. 32 minutes. 87 degrees.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
No, it's
There's
awful.
nothing.
And you have a lot of equipment in there.
I
Well-
brought it down. Since the last time you saw it, Paul, I have one computer, and I got the audio rack. It's putting out heat, but it's not like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. It's this PC over here. That's what it is mostly.
Well,
It's wild.
in my son's case, I finally said, look, we got to fix this problem. And I said, if you want, I have this gaming PC. It's probably not as powerful as your computer, but it's got we could look it up, but it's got whatever graphics card. I don't really use it, and if you're just going to use it for the summer, it's fine. So he switched to that. He put all his games on it. He put his work stuff on it. And the thing's really quiet, and it lowered the temperature upstairs dramatically. And he was like, actually, the graphics card that's in this thing is better than mine because we built this 3 years ago, whatever time frame it was. And then when he left at the end of the summer, he was like, if it's all right with you, I was going to take this thing home with me. And I was like, yeah, all right, go ahead. So,
how's it going for him?
what do you mean?
How did college go? I mean, he's 2 years in now, but
He's 3 years in.
3 years in. Jeez, he's almost done.
Yeah. Well, no, he isn't, because he switched majors. So he's going to be at least 4.5, if not 5 years by the time it's all said and done. But he got his associate's degree, and then.
And your
Whatever.
daughter started senior year.
Well, it's not really senior year, but it is his 4th year.
No. No. Your daughter started senior year.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. She did.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. They were, 10 years ago, they were kids. I feel like an old man. I rarely feel like an old man because I'm so youthful with my beautiful skin, my swarthy skin, and my glowing beard. But your kids make me feel so old. Because
how do you think they make me feel?
Listen, you've seen them grow up. I came in like 10 years ago. They were like children 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Like they were like real kids, and then now they're adults. Your daughter's an adult. Your son is an adult. It's wild. It's crazy when you see that. I know I veered off here, but I was just telling Jess about that the other night because I believe you posted or Steph posted a picture of your daughter. First starting senior year. I'm like, oh my God, she was a kid.
I know. She's a young woman now.
It's crazy. I hate all of it. Because I see my kids growing up, and then I see like me getting older.
You don't realize it as it's happening. So with your kids, as your kids get older, they walk, they do whatever they do. They get, they go to school, and when it's happening, you don't really understand it. It's only when you time has gone by and you look back and you see like a photo of one of your kids when they were really young, and you're like, oh geez, like I forgot they even looked like that.
Yeah.
This has happened to us over the past year because we have that smart display in the kitchen, and it's just set to show pictures of the family. And of course, Google's smart enough to know that baby Mark is adult Mark and baby Kelly is adult Kelly, and it shows pictures of the kids from all their ages. And these pictures will come up, and a lot of times you'll kind of remember them, and sometimes you even won't. But it's like, oh man, you forget.
All of it.
Time goes by quick, and it's
So
happens to all of us.
I know we went down memory lane, and you know what? We're gonna have time to do our Patreon show today, guys.
Mhm.
Today we're gonna be able to do our Patreon, and I know we got a nice group of people watching this live here. If you are watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button right now. You're on the page anyway. Just scroll down just a tiny bit, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Paul and I are back to our normal schedule, which is a rarity in many cases. Next week, however, I'm flying back from LA on Tuesday. So if we could do Thursday, that would be absolutely perfect to do the show. But, the traveling has settled down. Paul and I are back, so we're going to be doing more of the Patreon shows. If you like the show and you like supporting us, like today, we have no ads. So the only way we'll make money from the show is if you go to patreon.com/whatthetech and you join the group there and become a patron of ours. We do bonus shows whenever we can. We throw it, extra material for you guys. Right after the show, we're going to be doing a What the Talk. And also here on YouTube, you could hit that dollar button on the bottom and fund us if you want. Send us $1, $2, whatever you like to send us. 50 cents, whatever you feel comfortable doing. But the biggest thing you could do right now for us is hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. And also, wherever you listen to podcasts, this is the biggest help for us. Whatever podcast app you're doing, take 2 seconds out, load it up, hit the subscribe button, search for us, What the Tech, We have an audio feed. We have a video feed. Subscribe to the audio. You don't need to do the video if you're watching this. Go to YouTube and watch us. So hit the subscribe button, like us, do all that stuff. It's a big help. Also for Paul, go to Thurrott.com. I'm not ending the show. I just want to give a little plug here. People are going to freak out. They're like, wait a minute, are you ending it early? No. Go to Thurrott.com, join Thurrott Premium. Are you going to be, is there new stuff coming for premium members? I heard a little rumble. Okay. I'm not going to go with that. I heard a little gossip. This stuff is coming.
There's some stuff.
Yeah. Which is always fun. You know, I'm looking forward to you and Brad and Mary Jo being here in October because I can't remember the last time that all of us got together. It's been a while.
It has been a while.
Yeah, it really has. So I'm looking forward to that. That was it. That was all the plugs. That's all I'm throwing your way. You know, hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. I could see it when you do it. I get emails. Let's see. Let's see how many people did it. And did people hit subscribe? No, I got a JetBlue confirmation for runway issues at Terminal 5 tomorrow.
Awesome.
That's what I got. Thank you for that, JetBlue. All right. I want to ask you about this walkie-talkie nonsense.
Okay. I don't know much about it.
Okay, so
okay.
I got a little confused from this article. So you have it on Thurrott.com. Who did the article?
Mahedi, I'm sure.
Okay. By the way, how's he doing?
He seems to be doing okay.
Okay. I saw that he changed his last name to Sam's on Twitter.
That's funny. I hadn't noticed that.
I just saw that and I started chuckling. So I'm on Thurrott.com and I saw this article about how Apple reportedly has halted their walkie-talkie project. And I find this fascinating because what it would do, it was called Project Off-Grid Radio Service. So it would work off of the 900 megahertz frequency, wireless technology that's being used by the utilities currently. And the features would rely on Intel's modem. And Apple would work closely with Intel to build a new feature that would essentially, you would be able to use this frequency, which is interesting.
Well,
and it was for a walkie-talkie peer-to-peer feature, but also that would allow you to text each other without using a cellular connection. I imagine this project was more for emerging markets than anything else.
Yeah, in the sense, right. So, yeah, that makes sense. To me, what it sounds a little bit like is iMessage, and it's like this thing that normally requires particular technology works elsewhere kind of thing. It sounds like a typical Apple thing. We're gonna go above and beyond what's typical for this type of functionality, and it's only gonna work if everyone has an iPhone.
It's not. So is it a walkie-talkie feature like a Nextel? Or is it just peer-to-peer texting?
It's peer-to-peer. Well, it's gone. It doesn't matter. But
it's
thought
gone.
It was peer-to-peer.
I mean, we don't know now, right? We don't know if it's gone because they just acquired Intel's
probably iMessage
business.
for voice. Is maybe the right way to look at it.
Yeah. I found it interesting that they were working on this. When I saw that they were a while ago, I'm like, huh, okay. Industry devices, right?
Okay. Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You're probably right about emerging markets. I mean, there's no... there are certainly issues with wireless carriers these days, but one of those issues is not voice minutes, or texting limits. Like, we don't really have those.
Yeah.
And I'm sure part of the issue is that Intel doesn't have a modem business anymore, and that, most of those people probably went along to Apple, but some of them probably didn't, and maybe they didn't have some key personnel they needed who were working on it or whatever. So.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they first got into this. Your concept of just doing iMessage and having, that built in where iMessage always works.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? What happened to the story about iMessage being tested on Android and Windows? That went away.
Yeah.
They tried it. They attempted. They had the. I mean, they were testing it. It was happening.
It seems like something that would be super popular, but maybe that's the problem.
Do they want it to be super popular? Yeah.
Well, you want it to be something that makes you want to have more of this, and that's why you might go buy an Apple device next time, right? And so it's possible that iMessage was a bridge too far, that it would have, a lot of people would have said, great, this was the only reason I was going to switch to an iPhone. Now I don't have to worry about it. You know.
Well, when they started going into, I'm opening up iMessage right now because I want to see if it. So when they opened up within iMessage to have like application access, right? Like I could access my Delta stuff, my Delta app
Yeah.
through iMessage and send emojis and things like that, or Google
It's
Maps or
middleware.
Google Photos. Yeah, middleware, is that what you called it?
Yeah. Well, that's what
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
called it in the 90s.
I was, oh, I would have put everything on the line and said, oh, this is how they're going to introduce it to Windows and Android, because the biggest concept is, okay, now you put iMessage on Android. How are you going to monetize
Yeah.
this? Where's the benefit of
Yeah,
giving
you have right.
a
It becomes a
really good
platform.
messaging service and
Yep.
make it into a platform? Well,
Yeah,
you
but you
would,
know what? So Apple's services business is based around the notion that they have some installed base. And the big growth for them in the future is going to be people paying for these services. Unless they intend to bring those services to other platforms, which by the way they might over time, but in the beginning, no. Then giving people less of a reason to buy an iPhone is maybe not the best strategy. So it's possible that it's possible they could announce it tomorrow, but maybe one of the reasons we haven't seen iMessage on Android especially is that things have changed with regards to iPhone sales.
Hmm.
Maybe it happened in an unexpected way for them. They seem to act like they were confused by this, but they maybe had to push this other, the services part of the business harder to better monetize their existing customers. And when they look at iMessage, they're like, we really don't see the benefit of, because what you're saying is makes sense, but it's possible that whatever money you could make from an iMessage user on Android would be so small, it just wouldn't justify that not being an iPhone user.
yeah, well, initially I thought they were going to have premium, emojis and premium
Oh
gifts
yeah,
and
yeah,
access
sure.
to, a monthly fee for $2.99 or whatever
A
whatever the hell
hamburger
they're going to
emoji
do.
that doesn't suck.
That doesn't, yeah, yeah, all the
The cheese is
emojis
on
you've
the
ever
right side.
wanted. I thought that would be it, and
Mhm.
they open it up and that's how they start making some money off of Android and Windows. But uh, interesting.
I don't
I
I
do
don't
find it
see a big
interesting
reason to
that
put it on
that didn't
Windows,
happen.
but
Um, Also, I want to talk about Disney for a second with you,
okay.
Paul.
As you would.
I did not think I would be as interested in the Disney streaming
Yeah.
service as I am right now. The fact this is a major blow to Netflix, and the reason
Um,
why is
okay.
the fact that it has a. Well, I'll tell you why, and you tell me what you think.
Yeah. Okay.
The Disney property is tremendous at this point, right? They own everything. They have the library of content of videos and
Yeah.
television shows, and fine, maybe it's not your thing, but they're going to be bundling it with Hulu. The price is very competitive,
Mhm.
and they have emphasized 4K content, UHD content, as being
Yeah.
part of this in their marketing and the selling. I don't
Okay.
know. You brought up the fact that replacing cable with all these streaming services, and the argument that now I'm paying so much. But if you're talking about bundling something, this is not a bad between.
Yeah. I don't. So I guess we'll see what happens. I don't see this harming Netflix. I think these things will be complementary, and in part because they priced it so attractively that it's more likely people who are paying for Hulu will just give up on that. In fact, I think long term, Hulu should go away, and Disney Plus should be the service.
It should be the
And
service,
it's
yeah.
right. So for me, I mean, we pay for multiple services, like I think a lot of people listening to this probably do. Um, there are some we can't really kind of manage. Like we don't really use Amazon Prime Video a lot, but we have an Amazon Prime account, so obviously we just get that. But Netflix, we pay probably for the most expensive tier because we have 4K UHD and we have, I think it's 4 streams at once. My son's away in college and can watch it. My daughter is down in her basement, Bonneville and Lair, and she can do what she does, and we can watch something upstairs, and you don't have to worry about conflicting. Um, but we currently pay for both Hulu and HBO Now, I think it's called, and one of those is going to be going away pretty soon because the football season's starting up. We got to think about TV services again. It's getting, we don't have time to watch all of these things. But it's $6. I think it is $6.99, whatever the price for Disney Plus is. I mean, it's kind
It's
of a no brainer.
attractive.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
content there that I think a lot of people are going to like. So I think there's place for. I think there's a place for it, and depending on where anyone is with whatever tiers they're getting of whatever services they get, I think Disney can slot in very nicely. So Yeah, I would have said last thing we need is another service like the CBS. What's the CBS service?
CBS
CBS
All
Now, whatever,
Access.
All Access.
Yeah.
God, it seems like every channel, everyone's doing something like this. It's like, guys, we don't need more services, but Disney is such a content powerhouse between Star Wars and Marvel and Disney
Yeah.
and Pixar, and ABC and ESPN. Um, yeah, okay. It reminds me a little bit of the early days of the music services business where like Sony had their own service and a couple of the music companies would get together with a couple of others and you'd have like these music services that only had some stuff. Um, yeah, Disney's going to be like that, but Disney has such a good selection of content. I think they have a much better chance of seriously challenging Netflix than does Hulu by itself, certainly, or Amazon, right? Because both of those services have one or two decent original content shows that could be spoken in the same sentence as the top Netflix stuff. HBO certainly does too, by the way, but um, Disney can get in there immediately. And I think Disney becomes much more vital than Hulu, which it owns, or Amazon.
Well, they're going to
So
be here's where it's super attractive. Disney
mhm.
Plus, Hulu, and ESPN Plus for $12.99 a month.
Yeah,
That's great.
right. Now that the version of Hulu you get is not as good as the one I'm paying for right now.
No,
That's one of
because
the
I have
problems with
commercial
commercials.
free. Yeah.
And if I understand what ESPN Plus is, that what it's called?
Yeah.
It is. It's like the other sports on it. Like to me, what I want is like an online services version of ESPN, which would be multiple channels of content. But if I understand I could be wrong, but if I understand ESPN Plus, it's like all the stuff that isn't on ESPN. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah, but now they're
VO show basically.
sacrificing. They're sacrificing a lot of content from ESPN to ESPN Plus to drive the subscribers. So
Okay.
the big deal for ESPN Plus
But I don't
was
want
the
two
deal with the
ESPNs. I
UFC.
want all ESPN.
I
You
want
know what I mean?
all the
Like I don't want the
ESPNs.
lesser ESPN. I
Yeah.
want ESPN. So maybe someday they will offer a $20 tier that's no commercials that has all of the stuff from all of their services. And maybe at that time we have some decisions to make, but I think it's going to be complementary. I think a lot of people are going to have both
Yeah, well,
Netflix and Disney.
HBO now has one too coming out, right?
Yeah, HBO is kind of an outlier because I mean, HBO is amazing content, and we've been paying for HBO, I would say, over the kind of the middle half of the year. But um, once you get through it all, if you catch up on Game of Thrones, you catch up on we rewatched Deadwood, we rewatched I'm forgetting Veep. You could rewatch. There's all kinds of awesome shows. The Sopranos, whatever. Rome. There's dozens and dozens of shows. But I mean, like just like continually subscribing to HBO. I guess some combination of like the movies they offer, which obviously rotate month to month. Their original content, which like Westworld is coming back for season 3, whatever. Um, I don't see a 12-month subscription to that, but I could picture after the football season ends, going back for a month or two to watch
Yeah.
Westworld or something, or and catch up that way. But
And that's the great part of what you're saying. Even with TV service, like I'm a big fan of YouTube TV.
yeah,
Just because it has the highest quality out of all the streaming services, and I've used all of them, and they've gotten better. Hulu's gotten better. AT&T
yeah.
DirecTV Now is now AT&T. They're all
I wish it
better.
was. We talk about YouTube a lot. I wish YouTube was better about stuff. Do you ever find yourself doing this? You're clicking through like the recommended stuff on YouTube, and there'll be
On the
some.
TV or on my
Oh,
laptop?
I'm sorry. I mean regularly. Oh, you talk
Okay,
about TV.
I
I
was talking about
apologize.
TV, but yeah.
Oh,
Tell
sorry,
me what
sorry,
you were
sorry.
saying.
Yeah, we're almost certainly going to go YouTube TV when we go back to TV. But YouTube, because we do talk about it a lot. Just real quick, because this is something. This is like the old days when you'd buy a book on Amazon for your mother or some other person, and then for the next 6 months you would get recommendations based on this thing, which has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
It's like I'm getting like books about menopause, or whatever. Like um, on YouTube, like I actually have found myself now on multiple occasions. You click through the recommended stuff, and every once in a while there'll be like a random thing. You're not even sure why they recommended it, and you're like, I think I would like to watch this video about Bon Jovi or about I'm trying to think of some stupid topic like fishing or
Yeah.
something like I normally just don't care about, but then you don't click on it because if you do, you're never going to not be recommended this stuff for
That's
the rest
it.
of your life.
Yeah.
It's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
Like, I wish there was a way to kind of click and hold on it and be like, do not you dare recommend stuff based on this.
It's sometimes
Th-
so
You know,
smart and sometimes so dumb.
it always seems kind of ham-handed to me. Like I watch a lot of like tech retrospective kind of things, and I'm always it's like 90% of my feed now is like, this is how a Commodore 64 makes sounds. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I
Well,
like I don't
the Windows 10 hours of Windows 10 startup sounds. Like I
yeah,
get a
yeah.
recommendation like that. Well, here's something that
Every
happened.
Windows startup graphic in a row, like great.
So Good Eats is a show that I've always liked.
Mhm.
Elton Brown's show was on Food Network for years. They went away about 2011, something like that. And
That
now
was
it's
a long
back,
time ago.
right? Now it's back. And they put the first episode on YouTube. It did tremendous. I watched it.
Mhm.
It was
It's on
exactly
YouTube.
what it's on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, how
It's on
strange.
it's on the Food Network channel.
You
Yeah, I
sent me a
think it
photo
was
of the guy, and I said he looks like the guy from Breaking Bad.
yeah.
Not what
It's
Elton
back.
Brown is looks a little rough.
But now all I'm getting is everything from the Food Network.
Right.
Just endless amounts of videos from the Food Network.
This is dude, this
And
is online.
the way that I figured it out is that it'll dump it all at the same time and it'll pull away slowly.
Yeah.
It'll start pulling away. But the weird thing
God
now,
help you though. It takes a long time for that stuff to get out of there.
oh
I,
God,
I
tell me about it because my kids use my YouTube account, right? And I put on like their show if I'm putting on
Yeah.
something. And now all I'm getting is Ryan toy review videos.
Sure.
Right now,
Yeah, I was trying to figure out today,
my
like,
feed is
why
live
was my
PD.
my
Live
Twitter
PD
feed?
and Ryan.
I'm sorry, my Twitter feed today was full of, I can't see it anymore, but it was full of like this baloney about like um it's like food stuff and like sushi's too expensive, so you should use cooked fish, and then this other guy's like, well, you should look into ceviche, and someone else was like, you guys should make calamari. I'm like, why is this in my Twitter feed? And as I
Why?
go back and I go back, I'm trying to figure out where this all comes from. And it's because YouTube TV, which apparently I follow, promoted some guy who has a show that I've never heard of. And then all of the replies are for some reason in my feed. I'm like, what happened here? I don't want to see this stuff. I don't know.
I,
So anyway, this is
well, I don't know. It's
oh,
it's getting smarter, but I don't know how quickly with that stuff it's getting better. Also, this is interesting. I was not a big Chromecast user. I had no need to use a Chromecast. Everything that I was watching was essentially on the TV, on as an app. But since I've got this new Vizio, I'm using Chromecast all the time and Apple Play all the time. If I'm using, like the USA app and I got to stream something to the TV, I'm just using that. It was said that I think it's no longer going to be receiving updates to first generation Chromecast. And that was the big one that everybody ended up getting. So I'm curious if it's going to drive people to purchase a new Chromecast. Almost everyone that I know that has a Chromecast has that first generation Chromecast because it was so inexpensive.
yeah,
What was the price when it launched? Do you remember that?
35.
Was it the first one?
I think so.
I don't know why everybody got so many of them.
It's because the cheapest price on an Apple TV at the time was like $250, and the cheapest price on a Roku was probably like $150, and it was like, this thing is crazy cheap.
I mean, it's still pretty inexpensive. How much is a Chromecast Ultra now? My God, $60?
Yeah, that's 4K and has an Ethernet thing.
That's crazy. That's wild. I had no idea. I mean, I have one, but I had no idea it was that much money. But the first gen is going. I'm curious if it's going to drive people to purchase more Chromecast, or people are going to, just forget about it.
They
and just
really
use
improved
whatever
the
they're
design over time. They've got a nice little, because oftentimes it's kind of a tight spot back there for the port. So the new ones obviously have that little strip that comes off with the port on it, and they're nice. I have them all over the place. I have audio and video, and
I have to tell you my disappointment with the Fire TV. I think they made a big mistake by dropping the little pucks, the bricks for the Fire TVs. They've kind of gone backwards as far as design, because now it's about the Fire Stick and no longer the Fire TV. and I find that the second gen Fire TV was the quickest one still today. Like from benchmarking and everything, it's still the fastest Fire TV out there. But it doesn't have 4K, and it doesn't have support like the other ones do, which is interesting that they kind of went backwards and slower. Because that was intended to be the gaming one. Let's see. New Fire TV 2019. Is there anything coming out? We'll find out. All right. So, Paul, we're going to do a post show after this. So if you're watching live, stay tuned. We're going to do What to Talk right after this. For all things Paul, go to Tharot.com. Next week, we'll do a show on Thursday because I'm flying back on Tuesday, and I'll lose my mind if I have to rush to get here. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarin. You can follow Paul at Tharot. And remember, subscribe to the show. Follow us everywhere, blah, blah, blah. We'll see you all next time. Take care. Amazon 4K. Let me see. Amazon TV. Where's the Amazon Fire TV blog? There's a website that I use all the time. To get. Where is this? Amazon Fire TV blog. Is that it? No, that's not it. This guy got the name though. Okay, Fire TV blog, ATV News. I think that's it. Oh, this guy shut down the blog. This was such a good website too. This guy, it was called AFTVnews.com. It was like all the Fire TV apps and like news and stuff, and just shut it down. I think he's going to go work for Amazon now. Yeah. He accepted a position with Amazon Lab 126 as a product manager for Fire TV team.
Curious.
Yeah, it was a good website. All right, let me pull this up. There we go. You ready? Let's do this. All right. We'll begin in 3, 2, and 1. Everybody, welcome to What to Talk This Dirt. I got to do this again. Sorry. Suncast. He distracted me. All right. Begin in 3, 2, and 1. Everybody, welcome to What to Talk. This is our bonus show. We record this live each and every week, exclusively on patreon.com/whattotalk. I'm Andrew Zarin, joined by Paul Tharot. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
We had a very busy summer this year. Everybody. I don't think we've done a What to Talk in a while because of our travel and our schedule and all that stuff going on. But this is the time that I enjoy. I enjoy September. We're getting into September. The weather's cooling down a little bit. I'm not losing my mind running around. The kids are back in school, which is nice. I'm looking forward to the next couple weeks.
Not according to my daughter, by the way.
Well, she's not happy.
Yeah, today was her first full day of school. She was not quite in tears, but she wasn't happy.
She was not happy. Senior year is different now for kids, I feel. Like senior year for me was all about getting a car, hanging out with girls, and cutting class.
Right.
Is that not what senior year is?
I kind of mailed it in senior year. I think I can be honest about that.
Who didn't? I
had many days where like literally I was already in the school. My friend Chris would come by and he'd be like, "Let's get out of here." And I'd be like, "All right." Just put my books back in the locker and leave. Like, I think you're kind of done with school by the time senior year hits.
Yeah. I'm done with everything at this point. I have to fly to Vegas tomorrow, Wednesday, if you're watching this Wednesday. And I'm flying to Vegas Wednesday. I'm getting in late, like 10:30 at night over there. And then I'm going straight to the hotel, and then I have meetings. Tuesday, I have meetings on Thursday and Friday. Saturday, I fly to LA. I have a meeting Saturday afternoon. Sunday, I'm taking it easy. Monday, I have meetings, and Tuesday, I fly back. It's insane. I hate doing these double trips, but it's happening now. I wanted to talk to you about what tech you're using right now. We kind of touched on you switching back to the Nook and what you're using daily, but every now and then I like to find out, what are you using every single day?
Okay.
What are your devices?
Right.
So what are you using, Paul?
Well, what do you mean? Like
all
computers?
The technology. Yeah. Computers, laptops,
from morning
and
to night.
Yeah.
So first of all, I don't bring a phone to bed with me. I feel very strongly about that.
In fact,
I'm irritated. No. I
So
don't
what
like
do
that
you do?
my wife, my wife uses, well, my wife still does. And I think it's 7:00, which is, Actually, technically later than we should be getting up now anyway, because school has started. So we've been trying to get back on that schedule. But at 7 o'clock in the morning, her phone will start buzzing because that's the time for normal notifications. And there's nothing more irritating to me than the sound of her phone on the wood of the nightstand vibrating.
Oh my God.
Because I want to throw it out the window. I hate it. So I feel very strongly about that. But I mean, I read the news and I read otherwise on the iPad first thing in the morning. That's how I kind of start the day. And then in the mornings, I work on the computer I'm using here, which now is a Nokia. You know, for many months it was a HP all-in-one computer, which I really like a lot. It's just had problems. Temporarily, actually, it's Wednesday, right? So actually, while we were talking, I think it's Tuesday. So it's possible my new monitor has already arrived. If not, some other
Somewhere.
parts have arrived. I've got speakers coming, a cable. I'm kind of working through an upgrade here, but I sit here in front of the computer. I use the computer. I have tested a lot of phones this year. I use the Pixel 3a XL, the 3a XL. It has some performance problems to be sure, but I really like it. I like the form factor a lot. I love the camera. And so when I go to the gym in the morning, I bring this. And actually, lately, I've been using Samsung Galaxy Buds, the wireless earbuds. Today, I went for a walk. I go to the gym not quite every day, but today I decided to walk instead of going to the gym. So I just used wired headphones. And then I'll alternate in the afternoons depending on what I'm doing. So like many afternoons, like today, we have this podcast, and so after lunch, I continue. I'm on this. You know, we're on the computer. I'm working, and when this is over, I will go upstairs and work on the bed with a laptop. And I can't really claim that there's one laptop because I'm reviewing a bunch of different laptops right now. So I've been kind of going back and forth. But
What are you reviewing?
oh my God, what am I reviewing? A bunch of things. So Lenovo ThinkBook, 13-inch. Lenovo ThinkPad X1 Carbon, the latest generation. The Lenovo ThinkPad X Yoga X1 Yoga, latest generation. I've got a Acer Chromebook 714. I have an HP Chromebook 14. Am I missing something? That might be most of it. So I kind of alternate between those things. A lot of times in the afternoon, I'll work on, you know, I'm working on that premium series, the programming Windows series, which lately that's kind of bogged down. I've hit the point in time where the Microsoft Antitrust stuff has happened.
Mm.
There are entire books that have been written about Microsoft Antitrust, specifically the U.S. case. I need to kind of dance around it a little bit. The truth is, there is so much information. It is incredibly overwhelming, and trying to pick stuff out of it that I think is relevant or whatever.
Where do you know what? You reminded me of a question I wanted to ask you because it was such a big deal, right? The whole antitrust scenario. If that had not happened,
yeah,
very different Microsoft that we're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Very different.
I think Microsoft would have continued to be dominant for longer than it was, obviously. I think it would have retarded the growth of various industries, including everything that Google's involved in, especially internet search, everything that Apple's involved in, especially devices. I don't think it could have done much about e-commerce with Amazon. And I don't think, but who can say, they would have had a big presence in social media, but they would have tried. I mean, they would have gotten into all of those things. I think the place we're at today would eventually have happened in some ways. And that,
Well, very different players.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And so, this has come up during the stuff I've been writing. And so the two sides of the Microsoft stuff, like, should we break up Microsoft or should we allow them to continue in some fashion, or like what was the decision, or like how do you handle Microsoft? The arguments were all about the future, all focused on speculation. And there was one school of thought that if we don't do something about this company, it's going to continue to destroy competition. It's going to harm innovation. And as a result, prices will go up, and consumers will not get the functionality that they would have gotten otherwise, because Microsoft has squelched all these faster moving, smaller companies.
Yeah.
But the other side of the coin was, well, platforms are temporary, and eventually something will come along. At the time, it was like, there were PDAs, there were phones, there were set-top boxes, there were network computers or NCs. Something will come along, and it will dislodge Windows from the top spot, and their control over the industry will stop naturally, and that's the cycle. And so the interesting thing is, like, because of the kind of half-assed, way that it was done, both of those things actually happened. You know, um, not exactly. Like, I mean, but Chromebook is basically the culmination of the ideas of Netscape and the NC combined. Um, Apple obviously took mobile to new heights with the iPhone, and then Android came along and copied it. These are things. These are Microsoft was involved in all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they would have done a terrible job with it. They would never have done anything as good as what happened.
I think the social networking stuff, I could see them getting into opening.
Well, like Apple did, right?
Like Apple did, yeah.
They'll do it poorly. Like, it's
Ping.
They probably tried to, actually, right? They remember Microsoft had like a blogging platform, MSN Spaces.
But they
would have gotten into everything if they could have. They tried to get into MP3 players and failed. They tried to get back into phones and failed. There
should be an interesting discussion around Google and the grip that they have over a lot of things.
Well, there is.
So, I know. But, I feel like in today's standards, it's a very different discussion to have than in looking back, almost 30 years ago or 25 years ago.
If you look at today's, here's another thing. So one of the other big arguments at the time of the first big Microsoft antitrust trial with the United States was that the antitrust laws were antiquated. Some of them were created in the late 1800s because of trains. Some of them were created in the early 1900s because of oil companies or whatever. And the idea was that, well, this is technology. It's a different kind of market. You can't apply these laws from the past to these modern businesses. But I think, and a lot of other people think, but this is probably not a universal fact, but most people probably believe that, as it turns out, you can, in fact, apply the same rules. Like that, if you have a monopoly and you use that to illegally prevent competition in other markets and then enter that market with an unfair advantage, then you're breaking the law and you're harming competitors and you're harming consumers. And you can apply that to what Microsoft did very easily. If you look at the current complaints, the current antitrust investigations that are occurring against Facebook and Apple, Amazon, and Google, all of those, everything I just said apply. You can make the same case. And it's the Apple has 100 million, or I'm sorry, it's 1 billion users on iOS. They can only get apps through Apple. It's the only way to do it. So there's this tunnel you have to go through as a developer. Well, guess what? Apple also competes with you. So they charge you, Spotify, in one case, a VIG, or a fee to be part of any transaction that goes through their system. But now they have their other service, which just copies what you're doing and is not subject to that fee. It's completely illegal. It's exactly the type of business tactic that Microsoft engaged in. Google pushes its own web services over competitors, and it knows what people want because it sees the searches. Oh, it looks like a lot of people are searching for travel stuff. Let's start a travel site.
Yeah.
And when they search for Expedia, we'll put an ad up for our thing on top of the natural search result for Expedia. Totally illegal, right? They do that all the time. All of these companies have something like that. And, we can, the Microsoft stuff can also form as a basis for any kind of remedy. Where did the DOJ or the EU do right? And where did they maybe not go far enough, and apply that thinking to this new stuff? Because, there's some people, for example, that believe that Facebook should have some of their acquisitions stripped away from them because they're too powerful in social media. So under this scenario, they would lose control of WhatsApp and Instagram. And as an Instagram user, I got to tell you, I think that might be the best thing that ever happened to Instagram. Get the Facebook out of there, So we'll see. But I think this stuff is this stuff from the past informs what's happening now. The Microsoft stuff is not that far away time wise, but it feels like a million years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. Um, the Standard Oil stuff was 100 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember, the railroad stuff was over 100 years ago, but I think it all still applies. I think it's all relevant, and I think it's. I'm glad it's happening. It came together so quickly. I just never saw this happening.
Well, a lot of it had to do with the browser wars, and I mean the mainstream, attention was to that. That was a big argument. At that time was the anti-competitiveness of Microsoft just controlling the web, and that was the big fear. And look where we're at right now. Look what's the
Right.
market like right now. It's generally Google.
Yeah, I mean, Google has monopolies in search and in mobile device in phones, and both of those things are gateways. And when you think about Microsoft and the control they had over the PC industry, it was pretty absolute. But the market at that time was hundreds of millions of units. The potential eyeballs for Google are billions. It's
It's
many
tremendous.
billions. It's
Yeah.
most people. And so the importance of getting this right is a lot, or is important, I guess. It's a lot more dramatic. I mean, it's important. We have to get this right.
Yeah,
So
as far as
we'll
as
see.
far as browser as far as search goes, right?
Mhm.
Who's Google's biggest competitor as far as web search
So
engines?
honestly, if you want to be honest about it, Google
Yeah.
has no competitors in the search market outside of, I should say, China, where they have no presence, and there are Chinese options like Baidu or whatever that have. But in the Western world, there are small services like Bing and DuckDuckGo and probably a few others that I'm not really aware of. But
I'm trying to find the
but
stats.
this is like, so. What were Microsoft's competitors in the PC business in 1998? Right, BOS,
Mhm.
Linux. That's it. So
Pretty much, yeah.
Microsoft controlled 95% of the market for Intel computers. If you want to add in the Mac, you could add a third one that was single digit market share even when you combined it in. So that's Google's competitors today. It's the same thing. They exist. You can point to them, but they're not really competitors.
Does this make
It's only
sense?
only Google would point to them and say these are viable competitors.
Does 70% market share for search make sense to you?
What do you mean?
It says 70 Google the website I can't find where they're sourcing this from, but it says over
No, it's
70% of
higher than that.
search market share.
Yeah,
Google
it is over
undoubtedly
70. It's over 82, but it depends on where
85
you
for
are. Like,
mobile. Yeah.
yeah, and some, yeah, right. I mean, it depends on, you can qualify it in different ways. So if it's 85 on mobile, it's 85
Yeah.
because that is search. That's no, I mean, the amount of search traffic from an old guy sitting in front of a computer like me is
Yeah.
whatever. That's not.
Also, Bing has 33%
No, it
of
doesn't.
US search. That's
Oh,
what this
US.
is saying. Yeah.
By the way, that's absolutely not true.
Yeah.
But
Baidu is 75% of Chinese market. Baidu
yeah,
is
but
that
Google's not there. It's because Google's not allowed to compete there.
yeah.
That's an artificial
Yahoo, let's
restriction.
see. Ask.com has
Sure.
0.35%
Ask
of
Jeeves, I'm sure, is
search.
huge in some
Yeah,
places.
DuckDuckGo. I'm curious what their numbers are.
Yeah, I bet they're negligible.
Yeah, they're not. Additionally, DuckDuckGo has a clean interface. Blah blah blah. But what's their
By the
back
way,
end? Are they
to be
using
fair,
anybody?
so the other thing is, this was true of Microsoft too back in the day. You could point to this abusive behavior. It's very easy to see. It's very easy to prove. It's there. It exists. But you could also just kind of look at the service, or in Microsoft's case, the product, whatever they had at the time, Windows, the Java product, or whatever, Internet Explorer. And the flip side of this, and this is what kind of makes it a difficult conversation, because it's not just about numbers and facts. It's also about, like, actually, Google search is pretty great, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I think people use it, like if you go to DuckDuckGo or one of these other services are, it will be a lot like Google, right? It'll be a little off, but it kind of looks like Google. I mean, the barrier to switching shouldn't be that high, but it's like the thing I said earlier about Chromebooks or whatever. It's about familiarity, but it's also about just the pure functionality of it. I think most people who use Google services probably don't experiment too much, but those who do, I think, would agree that it's just better. Google search is just better. Google Maps is just better.
Yeah, Google Maps is by
You
far
know,
better.
it's you can go through any list of these things. Like, yeah, they may have done everything they can do to shut out competition. That's what dominant companies do. It's very common. Um, but actually, I mean, what makes it hard is like, well, what are you gonna do? Split this company up? Like, billions of people use this stuff. It's
Yeah, I'm looking.
you know, there's a conversation to be had about, you know, remedies and stuff and how that works. But I, I I don't. You'd have to be really cynical about Google to claim otherwise. I think a lot of people are, but most of their products are actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm looking at DuckDuckGo now. Actually, they have a pretty good search. DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, it's
It
fine.
works well.
I will say, you know, one of the things that DuckDuckGo does that I kind of like personally, because I'm always looking for images on the internet, is Google stopped providing links to the original images.
Oh
All you can
yes,
do
yeah,
now is
yeah.
go to the site, right? So if you go to DuckDuckGo and you click on an image, you can just see the image.
Let me see here. Let me go to
You know,
DuckDuckGo
so it's like a
images.
little thing they do that like Google doesn't do, and they can probably
Yeah,
get away with it because they're tiny. But
it works. Interesting.
yeah.
I had a question for you, and I forgot what it was. Jeez,
It's
I think that might be deciding to wrap it up.
right.
Totally forgot
All
what it
right.
was. All right, guys. That's it for this week. See you later. Take care. Paul, I need a screenshot of you. Hold on. Look at the camera. Do something. Anything. I
Let
lost
me
it.
know.
Sorry. Hold on. 1, 2, 3. Do one more. 1, 2, and then just one more without the graphics. Sorry. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you. I had to get the screenshot for the thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to do
Good
another
luck in your
show.
travels.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I'll see you when I get back.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody. I got to do Map Men at 4. So stay tuned. You can go to the Map Men channel and check it out there. Bye.